Welcome to the latest edition of our Seafood News Weekly Roundup show, brought to you by Erner Berry's Seafood Import Workshop Series. I'm Erner Berry and SeafoodNews.com editor Michael Ramsing, and yes, I'm wearing bunny ears. Erner Berry is celebrating Easter around the office this week, and we'd like to extend a big congratulations to our staffer here, Jamie Patterson, for winning our first annual Easter egg dyeing contest with his rendition of a Russian Fabergé egg. And that's enough for the ears. We have a packed show for you before the holiday weekend, and we have a lot of news from the West Coast industry. So we start today's show in Oregon, where Trident Seafoods intends to sell their Serene plant in Newport to Pacific Seafoods. Trident said it believes Pacific has the best chance of successfully operating this plant because of its existing infrastructure in Newport and experience marketing products produced from Pacific whiting. However, there is an issue that could prevent the deal from happening, and that is the antitrust lawsuit that has been filed against Pacific by some harvester groups. Pacific Seafood and Trident plan to meet with fishermen, community stakeholders, and government regulators to gauge support for the proposed sale with hopes of saving the 2017 whiting season. In other West Coast news, the forecasted harvest for Prince William Sound pink salmon this year is the largest on record, while the Copper River sockeye harvest was reported at a more modest level according to the latest forecast from the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. If the 2017 natural stock pink salmon forecast is realized, it would be the second largest natural run on record and well above the 1997-2015 odd year average return. The Alaska salmon seasons have expected start dates between mid-May and mid-June depending on the region and the species. In early April, four major West Coast and Alaskan organizations expressed outrage over Washington Governor Jay Inslee's nominations for new appointments to the North Pacific Fishery Management Council. The Fraser Longliner Coalition, Alaska Bering Sea Crabbers, Deep Sea Fishermen's Union, and Fishing Vessel Owners Association sent a letter to Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross asking that the Washington state nominations be returned and that the governor be asked to follow the state's public appointment process. We have two Pacific fishery updates. The first was confirmation that the Pacific Sardine-directed fishery will remain closed for at least June 30th of next year. This is the first straight year the fishery has been shut down by the Pacific Fishery Management Council. Once again, stock surveys showed low abundance of the fish. Meanwhile, the council said it would keep summer salmon fishing closed in parts of Oregon and California and opted for limited seasons on the rest of the coast in order to protect struggling stocks, which include coho and Chinook salmon up and down the West Coast. And that wraps up today's headline news, but before we move on to our top story, we'd like to pause and remind everyone that all of Erner Berry's premium seafood news content can be accessed through Comtel's totally revamped news page. And as for today's top story, the Vietnamese Pangasius and shrimp industries have come under fire in recent weeks. First, Vietnam's Pangasius exports to the European Union are still struggling from a series of very negative news articles that crush consumer perception of the fish across the European market. You'll recall from this program that Carrefour stores in Belgium would no longer sell Vietnamese Pangasius because of unsubstantiated claims that the fish's production damages the environment. This set off a wave of negative media attention aimed at Vietnam's Pangasius industry. A report this past week from the Vietnam Pangasius Association showed drastic declines in Pangasius fish exports to the European market this year, with the total value of shipments down over 17.5% so far. In other Vietnamese news, the country said it is stepping up its shrimp inspections after reports surfaced that some shrimp facilities were found injecting a colorless edible gel into the shrimp to increase their weight and size. The federal report said that inspections would be performed from April to May. Vietnam's Associated of Seafood Exporters and Producers issued a statement following the announcement to clarify that the practice of injecting the shrimp is not a widespread problem and really isolated to a few smaller producers that mostly sell shrimp to the Chinese market. One final note from Vietnam's shrimp industry found that raw material prices are up 24% from this time last year and are at their highest level in 2 years because of domestic supply shortages. This confirms a report last week that showed how Vietnam became a major buyer of Indian shrimp in 2016 because of poor shrimp production out of the Mekong Delta. Vietnam set a goal to export $7.5 billion worth of seafood this year, and shrimp was expected to be a large contributor to obtaining this goal. And that's it for today's show, which was brought to you today by Erner Berry's Seafood Import Workshop Series. We're headed to Miami on Tuesday, May 23rd to educate our next class of seafood industry professionals about what they need to know in order to remain compliant with federal and third-party seafood certification standards, which we all know can be a moving target to hit if we're not careful. Seats are still available, so don't miss out on this cost-efficient, timely, and intensive educational experience, and book your spot today by heading over to ernerberry.com/SIW or by calling us at 732-240-5330. As always, you can tell us how we're doing on Twitter by tweeting at us at SeafoodComNews and at UBSeafood, and you can like Erner Berry and Seafood News on Facebook to learn more about what we're up to. For Erner Berry and Seafood News, I'm Michael Ramsing. Thanks for tuning in, and we wish all of you and yours a happy Easter holiday. We'll see you all back here next week.